Good morning, boys and girls. Boy, oh boy, have I got a treat for you. This is a special day, something I've been obsessing over for some time. We're going to look at three badass budget bike packing stove kits. We're going to start with the cheapest of the bunch, that being the old infamous, old reliable IKEA firepot stove setup. Okay, that's number one. Then we're gonna go another step up and we're gonna look at another old favorite, the packable Lixada wood gas stove. Yes. And finally, we're gonna look at the latest acquisition, one I've showed and featured a couple times already, the flat pack titanium firebox. What do you say? We jump into it. All right, this is it. Three of them all set up. IKEA firepot, titanium firebox, and the Lixada stainless steel wood gas stove. As you can see, they've all been used extensively, heavily, and I can report that all three are just freaking awesome. Before taking the deep dive, though, I want to just say a couple of words about philosophy of use and where I'm coming from in all of this, historically speaking. My start was with ultralight backpacking, as many of you are probably from the same field, and with age, I've discovered that it's much more fun to ride a bike than to walk or hike. Anyway, that's just me. So my original philosophy was I needed a cook system that was self-contained, packed all together, and that's where this began its life journey, and it has evolved incredibly over the years. Likewise, this is also packable within its own cook system. This, on the other hand, is a stark deviation from my typical philosophy of use parameters, if you will. This does not pack within anything else other than the pannier of my bike, and it'll fit nice and flat virtually anywhere. So that's why I've discovered this and have been playing with this and can report some wonderful things about it. So that's the philosophy of use theory overriding behind everything. And while these two, are production-made stoves, their parts and pieces are interchangeable, right? And that's another thing. I like to do the Frankenstein thing, borrowing bits and bobs from one thing and using it with another, and just enhancing the possibilities. For instance, this is a pan from Trangia cook set, and I can now use this pan on all three of these stoves without having to mess with the Trangia kit, which I love the kit, but as I've said before, it doesn't work for me on a bicycle. That's just me. So I think that's all I have to say about that. So let's get on with it. Okie dokie, this is the infamous IKEA firepot, stainless steel, made in I don't know where, bought from the dollar store, but I think it actually is branded IKEA. Yeah, it's stamped on the bottom. Oh, and it says made in China, so all the way from China. $5, stainless steel, indestructible, zombie proof. It's the go-to. And as I said, I like stuff that is all self-contained and packed together, and that's what this is. Over the years, I discovered that the pot size that worked for me was a 750 mil, which is what this is, pot, but that's not about the pot. It's all about the stove itself, right? That's what we're talking about today. What makes this IKEA firepot work so well as a stove are these little tent pegs. I forget where I picked these up. I might have found these in Vermont or New Hampshire, I'm not sure, at a campsite. But they're stainless steel tent pegs, and I just trimmed them off to fit. And the beauty is, you have all these holes, right? So you can adjust the level of where you want your pot. Me, I want them up as high as I can get them. So they just stick right in there like that. I got another one that's gonna go in here like that. And if you look, you can see the peg goes in the hole below it as well. So it locks in place. That's cherry, man. So what you can do is, now this is what I call plan A. All my cook systems, I have a plan A, which is always cooking with fire. And then I also have a backup plan B, which is generally an alcohol stove burner of some type that works within the main pot. So the IKEA fire pot works like this. Inside my pot I have a cup. Inside my cup I have what I call Plan B, which is, in my opinion, the best alcohol burner that you can make with your own two hands. It's called the Fancy Feast. And in the event that dry wood is not available, well, hell's bells, man. You just pull out the pot stands. This is a burner and pot stand in one. So the pot just sits right on top like that. Down in the bottom of the IKEA fire pot, the IKEA fire pot is now acting as a glorified windscreen. And it works. It works really well. No complaints. 2 cups of water, 500 mils in 6 minutes. You're boiling, baby, boiling. So that works great. And also, the fire pot, because it is a fire pot, makes a great little campfire. I do a lot of stealth camping. Some might call it illegal camping, but I love the fire. I don't like to make a big fire pit with stones and shit, because that leaves a mess behind. With this, no mess. Hey, and look, somebody also mentioned to me, you can really make this thing work well if you raise it somehow. Well, I found there's no need for that. It works well because it breathes like mad. But if you wanted to, and I've done this, I've taken the pot stand that comes with the Lixada wood gas stove. You can set that on the ground, set your pot on top, or your fire pot on top. You get beautiful results. And it'll burn for hours and hours and hours, just dropping twigs in the top. And actually, if you're not cooking, you can put in fairly sizable sticks, you know, which I have done on many, many, many occasions. And it has never let me down. Somebody asked me, well, gee whiz, how do you clean that thing out? It gets full of soot. Well, what I do is I take it down to a creek, stick it in the water, fill it with sand and gravel, and just wipe it out. Same on the outside. If it gets, you know, soot on the outside, which I don't think it really does, but if it does get, you know, gunky, I've used sandpaper on this. I use sandpaper on this. Same thing, sand, gravel to clean it off. It's great. Perfect. Nothing to it. Yeah, so that's the fire pot. I don't know what else to say about that other than that it is just absolutely fantastic. Like I said, you can pick these up at IKEA. If you have an IKEA near you for $5 Canadian dollars. This one is from a, what do you call it, secondhand store, which I paid $1 for it, $1. And this, I paid nothing for it. All the materials came out of the recycle bin. Cat food tin and a tomato paste tin. The carbon felt in between the two walls I had on hand, so it didn't cost anything. But I've made so many of these and given them away as gifts. They're fantastic. So, it's about the fire pot, not necessarily Plan B. Okay? Okay, next up is the Lixada stainless steel wood gas stove. It's a favorite because it represents a real departure for me. It's more high-tech, I guess you would call it, than the old IKEA fire pot. And And two, we have to talk about, refer back to the philosophy of use. So again, it's a stove that packs inside of, actually, in this case, the stove is inside the cook pot versus the other way around with the IKEA fire pot. So this is a GSI Pinnacle Soloist pot that I've had for years now. This lid, however, is from a different set. This originally came with a plastic lid, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Again, it's the Frankenstein approach to better living. I like to mix things up, and that's what I do all the time. So this is how it packs in this pot. It's just so sweet. And because of the way it packs in, the pot has a non-stick coating on it. But the way this fits, it doesn't abrade the non-stick coating of this GSI Soloist pot. Anyway, enough of the pot. Who gives a damn about the pot? We're talking about stoves, right? For Christ's sake. So this is really ingenious. Stainless steel. There are three major components. This is just something that I added, a little ash pan to catch, ash that falls through. I also added a puck stove, alcohol burner, if you will, of my own design. Then you have a burn chamber and a pot stand, kind of all in one. So that just goes together like that. Oh, and there's also this two-piece pot stand that came with it, and what that enables you to do is this pot obviously doesn't need that pot stand, but if you set it on there, it's just going to breathe better. But if you have something like, let's say you're traveling with a 750 mil pot, well, that's not going to work, is it? So that's the beauty of this little pot stand. It just sets right on there. Bob's your uncle, you're in business. Thoughts on this? This is beautiful because as a wood gas stove, when you put your wood in it and burn the wood, it gasifies. The burn chamber has these marvelous little holes in it, and they act as jets. As your fire heats everything up, air is pulled in, the jets burn off the gases being expelled from the wood. So you get a nice clean burn, smoke-free fire. It's beautiful. I love it to death. I love the way it's been designed. It is such a clever three-piece design, and it's super lightweight. Sorry, I don't have the weight handy. My bad, I should have known that. But if you're lucky, maybe I'll list it up here somewhere or down there. Anyway. So the ash pan is just a piece of aluminum from one of these, holiday basting tins that you do a turkey in your oven with. And that just sits right on top of that. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, that's the idea. Sits on top of that. So ash that falls through the bottom of this just goes right down onto that ashtray, and you don't leave a mess behind if you're camping somewhere in stealth mode / illegal mode. So beautiful, beautiful. And again, it makes a great campfire when you're done cooking. You just put logs in there, and you can see the length. Here, this is the length of sticks, twigs. I mean, they can be this much higher. I mean, you can get a substantial burn going for hours and hours and hours. It's just a joy. It's like, instead of a big old campfire, you have a big old tiki torch. I guess that's how I like to think of it. All right, so with all the good, there is usually some bad. And my main gripe with this is it's a stability issue. Because if you can clearly see how tall this booger is, they call it a tower stove. So it can be tipped over really easy if you're not on perfectly level ground. And I have tipped it over, and I have cursed like a madman because of that. So that's probably its biggest downside. I would have to say that's about its only downside. So in the event that there is no dry wood available, you got to have a plan B, and my plan B is ye old puck stove. This was made from a can of tuna. It's just got some fiberglass insulation inside, and then on top I have some stainless steel screen. I think that came from a strainer that I picked up in the recycle bin. But anyway, made it with me own 2 hands, and that just sits on top there like that. Pot sits on top there like that. I mean, is this gonna work? I don't know if this will work or not. It might. Oh yeah, sure, of course it does. So you can put that on there. Mother of God, there is no God. So that just goes there, and you can still use your smaller pot if you wish, or you can even use a fry pan. This fry pan actually does not require a pot stand. It'll sit right on there just fine. Works great. There's so many holes all around this portion of the stand. Now granted, you're only going to get heat in the center, but aluminum is better to cook on than, say, something like a titanium pan. So not bad. Multi-use, multi-function, you know, you got to branch out. So that's the Lixotta wood gas stove in a nutshell. Not a lot of fiddle factor. It's pretty simple. Unlike the fire pot, all the pieces are large enough that you're not going to lose them. And I don't even really carry this with it, but I keep it because it has uses elsewhere. So there's that. Is there anything else I can add? I don't think so, other than it is a badass piece of kit. I love it to death. Absolutely. All right, last up is the titanium firebox. The brand name, I can't even tell you the brand name. It's a knockoff of a knockoff of a knockoff from China. And they're all pretty much the same, this style. Okay, hang on, a note before I go any further. I promised some weights. So this stove alone weighs 237 grams. Oh my God, knocking it out of the park. That's a heavy son of a bitch. The stainless steel Lixotta wood gas stove tips the scale at 195 grams. That's with the stand and with the ash pan. The IKEA firebox with the tent peg stands comes in at a whopping 134 grams. So if you're like a Graham weenie, you know, oh, it's too heavy, it's too heavy. Well, a fire pot is your, you know, wood burner of choice, obviously. Anyway, we're jumping the gun on all that. That's weight. On a bicycle, it just doesn't matter. If you're bike packing, you know, you can carry so much more on your bike than you would on your back if you were hiking, you know, and who would do such a thing? I don't know. There's crazy people out there, obviously. But anyway, I digress. I just want to get those weights out there because I didn't want to have to edit them in at the end of this video because I'm a lazy bastard as well as a cheap bastard. So yes, let's talk about this titanium. I love it. I love it, but I also love to hate it because it's got some serious fiddle factor going on. It has a huge, huge firebox. But this is close. This is really close. A close second. But it will hold a lot of wood. You can feed it from the front. You can feed it from the top. You can put a fry pan on there. You can put a small pot on there. You can put a big pot on there. So versatility-wise, this thing just kills it. It's you know, it's elevated. It's got, you know, there's some serious breathing room between the bottom pan and the ground. So it just draws air like crazy. And because it draws so much air, let's get you guys out of the way. You got vents on the sides, you got a big vent in the front. There's these little slit vents up in here where theoretically you could put an alcohol burner in if you wanted to, blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna go there. As a wood burner, this thing is magnificent. It has a couple of major drawbacks though. Because of the material, titanium, when it gets hot, I imagine stainless steel would do the same. They do make these out of stainless steel. They're quite a bit heavier. But this titanium just warps like mad, and it doesn't want to hold its shape. The pot stand that comes with it is supposed to mount corner to corner. Corner to corner. I'll show you what I mean. Corner to corner, corner to corner. But when this thing gets hot and starts warping, if you have your pot stand set up like that, I mean, I can't hardly get it in there, right? But if you have your pot set up there and there's any warpage, I mean, this thing can collapse and fall into your fire. You don't want that. However, there's a workaround for that. Rather than setting it corner to corner, what I do is set it from here over to here. There's these deep cutouts. See, it's already falling apart. You gotta be careful with this thing. It's good and it's bad, and I really want to point that out. So setting the pot stand in this way, at least the pot stand won't come out. You do have to be careful if you're pushing wood into this front and the sticks are going up and down. It'll push this up and the whole thing will fall apart. You really have to be careful with it. Takes a lot of experience. You don't want to be some novice going out for the first time using this. You want to play with it. You want to learn it. It has a really steep learning curve. Because it has this big firebox, if you load it up with wood and try to put your fry pan on, whatever it is in the fry pan is just going to burn to a crisp immediately. So you have to let it burn down, just like you would over, a standard outdoor campfire. Get the coals nice and hot. And because you have the big firebox here, you can use you don't have to use twigs. You can use large pieces of wood. You can cut them to fit. And have a look at my last overnighter, and you'll see what I did. And it works great. I pan-seared a nice ribeye steak on top of this thing. Love it. Love it. It's great. And as a campfire, it just excels beyond belief. It puts out a lot of heat for a very small space. Titanium, it's expensive, right? Typically. This one, now we're talking Canadian dollars, was originally 30-something Canadian because it is an off-Chinese brand, but it also came with an $8 discount coupon. So I got this for $25. Which is a steal, man. Canadian dollars. I also should mention that the Lixada wood gas stove, stainless steel, that I paid $26 for. So you get a sense. $1 for the IKEA fire pot, $26 for the Lixada stainless, $25 for titanium. Man, there's budget stuff out there. It's so cheap. To me, it's almost disposable in price. So I don't mind, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But this thing, I should mention too, this little pot stand also fits on top of the IKEA fire pot. So I can also put a fry pan on the IKEA fire pot. That's why I say, keep all the stuff. You can mix and match, experiment. I encourage you, go experiment. You're gonna have fun. You'll be surprised what you find out. So the big downside with the titanium is it warps. There's a huge fiddle factor here because of all the pieces. I've got 2 pieces for the pot stand. I've got 4 sides and then the bottom. And I also just cut a piece of tinfoil aluminum to use as a ash collector, again, because I don't want to leave a mess behind. Look at here, already it's come apart just by lifting it. So you just really have to be careful with this thing. So there's the front. And I want to show you what the warpage looks like. This is the bottom pan. I don't know if you can see how this thing has just totally deformed in shape. But it's magnificent. I love it. Despite its flaws, I love it. Hang on, I gotta go check something real quick. There's someone knocking at the door. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I'm really sorry about that that delay. It was the postman. Michelle's latex rubber cat suit has arrived. She's been waiting for that for so long. Anyway, so we were talking about the fiddle factor. There is a lot of fiddle factor with this thing. It's heavy, yeah, but it's so cool, man. As a campfire, it excels. It beats the IKEA fire pot. It beats the Lixada wood gas stove. Hands down, it's badass. If you do use something like this, what I would recommend is putting a large hearthstone in front and then a large stone in back, just to keep this thing from moving around. And you always have to check these corners to make sure that they're all tight, pushed down, and it doesn't come apart on you. Now, again, what's plan B? Plan B is always going to be my go-to, baby. The Fancy Feast. And what's cool about it is it just fits right in the front here. In the bottom plate, there's a little recessed square that the stove fits right in. And per usual, I'm going with the 750 ml pot. Sits right on top of that. Man, again, 6 minutes, 500 mils of water, you're boiling. You are boiling. It's a great windscreen. I don't know what else to say. It's a jolly little rig to have when you're out bike packing, camping, you know. And it does, as I say, pack flat. This is the envelope that it comes in. I mean, it just fits anywhere. So I like all three of these. I really like this stove now, but who knows? Next week could be a different story. I really love my old IKEA firepot because it's so ridiculously simple, lightweight, reliable. No fiddle factor here. None. 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 And ho ho ho, if you are using plan B, there's almost no way to knock this thing over. You can put it in the vestibule of your tent. You know, this thing, I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, those are three badass budget camp stoves, bike camping stoves, bike packing stoves. You can't go wrong with either one. I encourage you to go out and get all three and play with them because it's a gas. All right, that's all I gotta say. I see it's raining, so maybe I'll go take a nap. Cheers, gang.